Welcome everyone to the first official episode of BB. My name is Zain Bando, and I am so excited to be back as we are in the midst of a crazy second half of April in the world of sports. I'm excited to bring all of the action to you guys here on the first official episode of his brand new venture. It is known as Bando's Breakdowns, but I like to call it BB for short. Before we get into anything and everything that it is Bando's Breakdowns, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the ETB network as we are up over around the mid halfway point between 740 and 800 subscribers. So thank you again for those who tune in and support the network in any capacity, whether it's this show, whether it's the main flagship show, ETB Sports, whether it's the MMA Outsiders, which is off for this particular week, or any other piece of content that we do on the network. We thank you so much. The show that you're currently watching it is presented by Playack. I am and Bando. You can follow my work at Bando99. You can also follow this show at Bando's Breakdown social media on Instagram, X, wherever you get your social medias, you can do so there as well. If you are listening on the audio-only platforms, be sure to come over to the YouTube home. That's youtube.com/ETB network, and vice versa. You can listen to Bando's Breakdowns wherever you get your podcasts, Acast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so much more, with all of the introductions by the way, including etbpodcast.com, where you could check out all of our shows and more great blogs from some of our contributors. You can definitely check that out there as well. With all of the introduction stuff out of the way, we can finally get to the first episode of this brand new show. We're going to get into a little bit of an introduction here first. So for those of you who have never seen the show before, you may know me from a couple of different capacities. You might know me from my work on the MMA Outsiders. You might know me from my work on Football Friday. You might even know me from my work as a journalist. I work for a couple of different outlets, including the Sporting News, Sports News Highlights, MMA Knockout, and a couple others. You might know me from various capacities. So essentially, the whole idea of this show is I wanted this place to be, kind of a one-stop shop for all of my unfiltered takes, where once a week we, really dive into the world of sports, whether it's, my opinions on all the latest news, whether it's a breakdown on various games that are taking place, or if it's the occasional guest every so often. I want this to be a place where, everybody can come in and they can really get to know me as me, either myself as a journalist, as a personality, or just someone that really enjoys what he likes to do. So this is kind of what the show is going to be. It's really a free flowing program where everything kind of goes, and we sort of just have fun with everything, and we really don't try to take ourselves too seriously on this show either. So that's what I think makes this show very unique. So I'm excited to jump into some of the topics that we have this week. We have a couple of things to go over in the world of sports, some that are pretty pertinent and others that I just think are interesting and should be noted in such a way because they're all relevant in terms of timeliness. So we're going to get into that right now. This past weekend at the Barclays Center, we had Devin Haney taking on Ryan Garcia. It was not for a world championship because Ryan Garcia did miss weight by 3.2 pounds. But wait, there's more to the story. And that story is that on Saturday night at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, with the whole world watching, Ryan Garcia, a 9-1 underdog, silenced all the doubters, beating Devin Haney by majority decision. 2 of the 3 judges' scorecards awarded the fight to Devin Haney, to Ryan Garcia. Although one judge who did score it a draw, you could have very easily made the argument that Devin Haney did edge Ryan Garcia, but nonetheless, Ryan Garcia did pull off the upset, and he gave Devin Haney his first professional loss in a very incredible fight. You had Devin Haney getting dropped a couple of times. You had Ryan Garcia really using his speed and quickness in the first round to really kind of throw him off. And, you had Garcia, using a lot of angles and a lot of feints and just things that you wouldn't expect, from a guy like Haney to be susceptible to. He was susceptible to essentially everything. And this is something that I think a lot of people need to know, that, upsets in boxing do occur. But sometimes you have these favorites that go in and you think it's going to be a whitewash, myself included. I was totally wrong on this. I thought that Haney was going to be able to exploit Garcia in every aspect of the sport. I thought that Haney was going to be able to bum rush him and eventually win in round 7, but none of that happened. It seemed like he was just a step behind the entire fight, and it was just one of those fights where you were in utter shock once the judge's decision was awarded. This is one of those upsets where you remember where you were when you saw it, and regardless of what people say about the weight miss, the trash talk, the mental health discussion, this fight had everything and more. I wrote about it in my column the other day. This is being released on Wednesday. I wrote in my late Monday night, early Tuesday column this exact feed, and I said Devin Haney needed a dance partner just as much as Ryan Garcia did. These two were tailor made for one another. This rematch is going to be huge. If it's for a championship on the line, I can guarantee you that Ryan Garcia will not miss weight twice if these two end up fighting again. And when you have four of the biggest stars in the sport in Terrence Crawford, Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, and Gervonta Tank Davis, all kind of manning the lighter weight classes, boxing is an unbelievable problem to have. And for those of you who missed this fight, I genuinely feel bad for you, because even the casual audience was watching this fight in pure utter shock. Did Ryan Garcia troll everyone? That's hard to say. I would argue that more than likely he did. Is he's still a bit of a lunatic? Absolutely. But I think the thing that you have to keep in mind um, is that this show was very successful. You obviously had Eddie Hearn, who was a little frustrated with Ryan Garcia's camp. It seems like they brushed everything over. And when you look at it from a business standpoint, these two got paid. These two got paid really well, and this rematch is definitely going to be exciting if that's the road that they end up taking. Although there are a lot of different options for both of these guys, given the way that they're currently at. Really quick before we jump into something that isn't related to boxing, I did just want to quickly gloss over the final punch stat numbers. So um, you had you had total punches landed. The percentages were 41% for Devin Haney to Ryan Garcia's 37%. Um, let's see. You also had let me see. You also had total punches landed. Ryan Garcia 106. Evan Haney's 87, and of course this was out of 214 and 285 attempts, respectively. So just looking at the final punch statistics overall, clearly shows that this fight was way more competitive than people were initially anticipating. So congratulations to Ryan Garcia, despite the fact that he did miss weight. Devin Haney will be back better than ever. That was his first professional loss, and he probably knows that he's still a better fighter than Ryan Garcia, but still, that remains to be seen. Total parity, again, 9-1 underdog. Ryan Garcia wins a majority decision on 2 of the 3 judges' scorecards. We're going to move right along into some stuff that's a little bit more current. But we're going to go into I think what is the biggest story in Chicago this week, and that is the NFL draft. Caleb Williams, obviously highly touted quarterback out of USC, is expected to be taken number 1 by the Chicago Bears in this upcoming draft, the 2024 NFL draft. Just a shameless plug. We are going to have an NFL draft live stream on the ETB network on Thursday that's going to react to the entire first round, including this number 1 overall pick, which I'm very excited to be a part of. Obviously, Caleb Williams is one of the best quarterback prospects in quite some time, had monster numbers at USC, led them to a bunch of wins. Didn't quite make it to the national championship as people were kind of expecting, but still a super hot prospect, someone to really keep your eye on if you've ever seen him play before. He can do everything. He's elusive in the pocket, outside of the pocket, can throw the deep ball, and tremendous receivers to throw to, and is just really a big time special player and someone that USC was extremely lucky to have because he was the engine that it made that offense work. And the Bears need someone who's a dynamic playmaker, someone who can, play through adversity, someone, who can really, be there to step up for the team and, make big plays when needed. And if you can put, you know, a Dunse or a Malik Neighbors, around Williams at number 9, and if you could get some other pieces on the offensive line, and of course have some defensive prowess to complement Williams, the Bears should be set up for success in the next 4 to 5 years. Don't expect the Bears to trade this pick. Don't expect them to do anything crazy. They are taking Caleb Williams. Although I was a huge Justin Fields fan, I am excited for the future. I hope he does well in Pittsburgh, but Caleb Williams is the guy. This is the guy that they've needed for a couple of years. The Bears GM and ownership knows this is the direction that they've been wanting to take, and in order to take back the North, if you will, you need someone who has a big game mentality, and Caleb Williams certainly has that. So I'm excited for him to see what he can do here in Chicago. It seems like he's gotten to know the coaching staff well, et cetera, likes Chicago, even has the Bears as his background on his phone, apparently. So he is very much someone that, is going to be embraced here. The city to me is going to love him. He's going to be the most loved, athlete in Chicago. And then anywhere outside Chicago, he's going to be the most hated, especially if the Bears become good under him. So I'm very excited for this pick. Tune in to the NFL draft Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to tune into this stream, which is going to begin around 7:40, 7:50 Eastern. Going to break down the entire first round of the NFL draft with a bunch of guys who I feel know football pretty well. And me being the lone Bears fan, I am super excited for this number 1 overall pick. I'm excited for the future of the franchise, and I'm excited to see how this draft plays out. Speaking of sort of the college / professional draft realm, wanted to get to a story that I think is arguably one of the biggest stories, if not the biggest story in sports. Indiana Fever number 1 overall pick, ex-Iowa superstar Caitlin Clark inks a 8-year, $28 million deal with Nike. The first thing I can say is this. I was not a women's basketball fan before attending the University of Illinois. Full disclosure, when I was at the University of Illinois as an undergrad, we were the worst team in the Big Ten almost every year. We were lucky enough to win maybe 20 games in the 4 years I was there. I was on my way out when Caitlin Clark was making her ascent in Iowa City. My point in saying all of this is this. 40 years ago, women's basketball was in a much different place than it is now. 40 years ago, I was a score box operator for Big Ten Network Plus, which for those of you who don't know is the consumer-to-consumer streaming service that airs all of the non-revenue sports. If there was a women's basketball game on BTN Plus, chances are yours truly was making sure that the score that you saw on the live stream was perfect. 4 years later, now we have tons of women's basketball on national TV. We've got the highest rated women's national championship of all time, which included Caitlin Clark and her near upset of number 1 South Carolina, who finished undefeated. That at 18 million people. You've got 36 out of 40 Indiana Fever games airing on national TV. You got, the Las Vegas Aces moving their game against the Indiana Fever to T-Mobile Arena, which is the home of the Vegas Golden Knights in the UFC. And you have ticket prices for the Chicago Sky game, which is going to be here at Wintrust Arena in the city in mid-June, being as high as $400 just for the cheapest ticket. So you want to talk about a monumental shoe deal? This is as monumental as it gets. Nike is already the biggest shoe company on the planet. They just added arguably one of the most popular and most influential and most transcended athletes, if you will, if you don't like what Caitlin Clark is doing for the sport of women's basketball, I truly think that just something is totally wrong with you. She is doing everything she can to grow the game in the biggest ways possible. And the first thing you have to do is you have to know how to market. And she knows that well with her millions of Instagram followers. And the second thing you have to do is you have to invest in the consumer. And what I mean by that is by putting more WNBA on TV, by putting more quality WNBA games on TV that and include her or don't include her, that include other college prospects, like a Cordozo or like an Angel Reese, for example. Both of them are going to be a part of the Scotty. You're bringing in eyeballs that maybe have never seen the sport before. So for her to get to this level and to have this sort of stardom and to know, how many young women she's looking up to, it truly is just awesome. And I'm excited to see how she does with the Fever. The Fever could win 15 games this year, or they could win every single game. And her impact of what she's been able to do to grow the game is just awesome. And all she said was she obviously cares about winning because she's one of the most competitive players that we have in our sport today. But the biggest thing that she said was she wants to grow the game and she wants to have fun. And I think this is a part of the having fun part. Of she gets to partner with such a powerful brand, Nike, to really sell her shoe and to really show that she's on the level with some of these some of these star hoopers that are on the male dominated side. So it's good to see that he's doing so well, and everyone should support this shoe deal however they can, whether it's buying her kicks, whether it's retweeting everything that Nike does, whether it's buying a gift card for someone that doing anything to support this deal. I think is great. And any retractors who don't think so, I think are soundly mistaken and need to look in the mirror and really, see from an impact perspective what this actually means. So congratulations to Caitlin Clark and all of her success. All right, now we're going to move kind of back over into the fighting realm, and we're going to talk about PFL Chicago. I was there as a member of the media, credentialed under MMA Knockout. Shout out to the guys over there, Fernando, Matt, Drew, Logan, and everybody on our team that supported me. It was one of our first times as an outlet that we were credentialed as members of the media. I was the lone guy there from my team. We've had a couple credentialed events, but this was the biggest MMA event, or the biggest and one of the only MMA events we've been credentialed for so far. And this card was awesome. You had Koreshkov versus Umaladov in the main event. You had a bunch of really exciting finishes. You had Logan Storley getting knocked out. You had a couple of other fights that were just tremendous. You even had Gabriel Braga coming back after the passing of his father, and winning in the fashion that he did was just tremendous. But just wanted to give a quick shout out to everyone who was there, to everyone who I met. Some of the guys who I did meet are in this, 50 to 60 person MMA media group chat, which producer Tom he knows really well. So shout out to the guys from the group chat who were at this event, and really just an overall well-run event. Got to sit 8 rows back from the cage. The PFL could not have been cooler. Really, this event could not have gone any better outside of the main event. It was great to be able to check off another important event off my bucket list. That event concluded the first half of the PFL regular season. The PFL now gets about a month off before they return in June. They have a card, I'm pretty sure it's in Connecticut. They have a couple other cards, including one in Salt Lake City, Utah, one at the Mohegan Sun, and then a couple of other locations that I cannot think of off the top of my head. But it was nice to be back at the first PFL Chicago event in about 5 or 6 years. The original one did feature Kayla Harrison's pro debut, which is one MMA fun fact that I tell people all the time, was that I was at Kayla Harrison's debut against Brittany Elkin, where Kayla Harrison won by armbar in less than 2 minutes of the first round. It was one of the just most shocking and effortless things I've ever seen, just because I heard that she was a judoka, but I didn't know that she could actually fight. No one really knew it at the time, and now she's one of the UFC's biggest stars and on a fast track to a title shot after a dominant win over Holly Holm at UFC 300. But that's either here nor there. Had an absolute blast at PFL Chicago. Well, that's my first MMA event of 2024. As credentialed media, more to come on the way soon, and more announcements to come regarding those events in future weeks to come. But just wanted to give a quick shout out to everyone involved with at the PFL, everyone that was able to put that event together. Thank you. Kudos goes to all of you. You guys are the best in the business. You know who you are, and that's that's about all of that in regards to the PFL. We're gonna stick with combat sports just really briefly. We're gonna go into UFC Vegas 91. This card is not the most top heavy card. I'm just gonna be honest. The main event is Nicolau versus Perez. It's back at the Apex again. And we know that, well, sometimes these Apex cards are not the best, nor are they the worst. But I feel like there's some prospects on here that just made me say, you know what? Let's pick one fight that I think is interesting. And speaking of, I have not made my picks yet. I'm going to make my picks here shortly, at least in the next little bit after I get off the air today. But full disclosure, UFC record not too bad, 85, 75, and 3 for the year so far on UFC picks. A prospect I'm looking at here, Johanta Dint. He's 6-0. He's fighting on the main card. I'm looking here. It's the third fight on the main card, and he's fighting Austin Wayne. I just think Austin Wayne's chin is too susceptible to quick knockouts, and I think Dint, if both him being a power striker and him also being a ground specialist in his own right, that's a fight to watch too. I think he's a solid prospect out of Brazil that I think could raise a lot of eyebrows. His record is 6-0. Austin Wayne currently it's at 12-4. Just quickly going through this guy's resume a little bit. By the way, he's 32 years old, so he's a little bit on the older side of the 30 years, if you will. One of the contender series for the nice knockout over Eduardo Evans last year. For those of you guys who don't remember that fight, that was on Dana White Contender Series. And then from there, some of his other wins, you got Rodrigo Duarte. That was on the regional scene. You had this guy, Carlos Nascimento, which I don't think is any relation to Rodrigo, but I could be wrong on that. And another win, which was his pro debut that I thought was interesting, was Robertson Andrade. He won by knockout in 1 minute and 32 seconds. That was back in September of 2022. So he's been around a little bit. I think he's a prospect to watch. This is a great card placement. Could have easily been on UFC 301, but hey, fighting a guy like Austin Wayne, who struggled over the last couple of years finding his footing in the UFC, this is a first. This is a great step up in competition. And actually, for those of you guys who are in James Lynch's Survivor pool and Discord, in the free Survivor pool, this is my pick to remain in the Survivor pool. Dint's over Wayne this weekend at UFC Vegas 91. Just wanted to quickly go over also on this card, just to give you some news and notes regarding UFC Vegas 91 and where you can find it. It's a heads up. This is an earlier start this week. You can find the prelims at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on ESPN Plus. You can find the main card shortly after that, 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN and ESPN Plus. It's one of these double linear / streaming cards. So with all that being said, heading into UFC Vegas 91 this Saturday, if you don't know, now you know. Now we're going to get into a little bit more of what I like to call Zain's look ahead. This is where I go over essentially all of the major sporting events that are coming up in the next couple of days. We're obviously in the midst of the NBA postseason right now. We've got some matchups on tap here, so without me getting anything wrong, I'm just gonna go over them briefly. So as of as of um, as of Monday night, just to quickly go over some of the scores, we had the Nuggets edging out the Lakers on a buzzer beater, 101-99. We had the Knicks knocking off the 76ers at Madison Square Garden, 104-101 to take it 2 games to. And Denver is also up 2 games to none in their series against the Lakers. The Cavaliers edged the Magic by 10 to take a 2-0 series lead, and the Oklahoma City Thunder on Sunday night took care of business against the New Orleans Pelicans, 94-92. The Bucks and the Pacers were also in action too. The Bucks lead that series 1 game to none. The final score there on Sunday was 109-94, and then of course the Clippers against the Mavs. The Clippers won 109-97. We're gonna get into who is playing tonight. So going into tonight's slate, we have a couple of games tonight. We've got let's see, we've got one, two, we've, well, this is going to be coming right after these games, which just as a quick heads up going into Tuesday nights leading into Wednesday. We're just going to go over some of the matchups. We've got the Bucks hosting the Pacers. We've got the Clippers hosting the Mavericks. The Celtics hosting the Heat. The Thunder hosting the Pelicans, and then and in this slate, which is on Thursday night, which is the one that I think more people care about in the NBA. We got the Cavaliers traveling to Orlando. We've got the Knicks traveling to Philadelphia for Game 3 and a must-win for the 76ers. We've got LeBron James and the Lakers and their backs against the wall against the Denver Nuggets. We've got the Pacers taking on the Bucks, and of course, it's just getting into Friday slate. But you guys get the idea in the NBA. There's a lot of compelling matchups on the basketball side as well as on the NHL side too. So just briefly getting into that. We have some interesting series so far. We got a 1-1 series tie in the Maple Leafs Bruins series as Toronto was able to win game 2 3-2. They had to rally to win that one. We have the Carolina Hurricanes who will be looking to take a 3-0 series lead against the New York Islanders. They had to rally in the second and third period earlier this week to win game 2. So that was impressive. Vancouver is leading the Nashville Predators 1 game to none in that series. We had a huge overhit in the Jets Avalanche game. The Winnipeg Jets edged the Colorado Avalanche 7-6 in a wild game. The other night as well, there's a lot of exciting hockey going on. And getting into Thursday's slate, which I think is the most interesting. We're gonna have the Hurricanes looking to take a 3-0 series lead against the Islanders. We've got the Rangers playing the Capitals. In 3 game 2 was to be played there. We've got the Canucks taking on the Nashville Predators, obviously, and we'll have a rematch of the Jets Avalanche game as well. So that's a bit of a look ahead into the NHL and NBA postseason. That gives you a great idea as to all the parity that's going on. There's so many games. It was really hard to keep track of which games were on which days, but that obviously is what the Google scoreboard is for. So shout out to the Google scoreboard for that. Just wanted to get into a little bit more of this kind of going into to Zan's overview and what to look forward to. So kind of coming up for me on the docket. We obviously have a dead week in the UFC this week. We'll be back with UFC 301 from Brazil. That's the Pantoja Usyk card. I will be in St. Louis for UFC St. Louis with fellow ETB contributor and MMA Outsiders contributor Brett Cagle on May 11th. That is the Derek Lewis Rodrigo Nascimento main event. We'll have that, and you also just have a ton of other stuff coming up too. There's some major boxing events over the next few weeks, and just other exciting sports content that people should be looking forward to checking out. Just wanted to take a quick break in the action to let you know that this podcast is presented by Playack. For those of you guys who don't know, Playack is our new sponsor that has allowed us to, really find our freedom in what we want to do in terms of just sports content. In general, I mean, it is really quite an an unbelievable I guess platform, if you want to call it that. Um, just wanted to briefly pull something up here, just to let you guys know more about it. So this show is obviously presented by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience, from playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/ETB network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. And for those of you who have not been paying attention, we've been pumping out a ton of NBA content. We also have the NFL Draft Classic stream at that I spoke of earlier earlier in the recording. For those of you who missed it last night, be sure to go check that out. It was definitely a fun time talking about all the different eras and stuff surrounding the NFL draft. So be sure to tune in and be sure to join the community. There's tons of communities out there. It's primarily an NBA centric platform. They're adding some soccer and they're adding a couple other things, but this platform has so much potential that I'm excited to be a part of it. Everybody else that's surrounding the network and everybody else that's involved in Playback is excited to be a part of it. And I am most certainly excited to be a part of it, because the best part is that you get to watch live games with people you care about, and it doesn't cost you anything to do so. So it really is a really nice service to just really hone in on, making sure that every sport that you see is authentic, and you can really bring together everyone that you want to be involved just in the project. And overall, it's just it's a tremendous feat and a very nice asset to what we're currently doing. Kind of back into the show before we wrap things up. Just wanted to go over a couple more things. I guess I can go on a little bit of a rant here. So, full disclosure: 3 years ago, I went to the Conor McGregor Dustin Poirier fight at UFC 264 in Vegas. For those of you who were there, you remember what the atmosphere was like at this fight. This fight was tremendous. The build up to it was insane. Conor McGregor billboards everywhere. Obviously, he broke his shin, has been out for 3 years, is now fighting Michael Chandler June 29th. That's beside the point. Tickets go on sale this upcoming Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern over on Access.com, which is the official ticketing partner of the UFC. It's already come out that VIP ticket prices for this event, which is about 2 months away, or is going to be near 2 months away by the time tickets go on sale. VIP prices for this fight, a non-title fight, I might add, $12,000. You mean to tell me that these ticket prices for Conor McGregor's return fight are just as expensive as one of the cheapest Super Bowl tickets you could buy, or even a national championship ticket? I'm sorry. These ticket prices are not justified. These ticket prices are pricing fans out who buy every single event, who buy the merchandise, who support the sport in every way. Even the people who cover the sport, it ruins opportunities too, because there's less people who will get a chance to get credentialed, and all these sorts of other variables. Fact of the matter is it's the expensive time to be a fight fan, but $12,000 for a fight between two guys that have losing records in their last 5 fights. I'm sorry, you just can't justify that price to me and tell me that it's worth it. If it was Conor McGregor fighting for a championship of sorts, if it was if it was a BMF title, if it was some other fight, you could maybe have me justify it. But the fact of the matter is that you just can't. It's brutal. It offsets the cost of what the event should have been. I went to UFC 264. Full disclosure, I'm not going to say what the price was, but tickets were nothing like this, and I feel bad for people who were excited to go to this card that can arguably no longer go because the VIP ticket package is so expensive. If you are considering going to Vegas, my best bet for you is if you're not a member of the media, go to the UFC X event, which is the entire week. It's $20. I think either for the day or for the week or whatever. Go to that. Go to the Hall of Fame ceremony. That's free. Go to the press conference. That's free. Go to everything that's leading up to the fight, and for the actual fight, go to Stadium Swim. Go to the MGM Grand. Go to any sports book where you think the fight might be accessible, or go to any bar that you think might have the fight. But I think if you're going to Vegas, that's the way you can make the best of it without going to the actual fight itself. I've been lucky enough to say that I've seen him in person once. I'm willing to admit publicly right here, right now, that I'm good sitting this one out. And anybody else who's seen Conor McGregor in person will more than likely agree with me because $12,000 is just too much. Nonetheless, the fight's going to be awesome. We're going to have wall-to-wall coverage of the fight every single week leading up to June 29th. This is a fight that our entire crew has been clamoring for the last year. And we're getting into the countdown stages of this fight, which is super exciting. So knock on wood, literally and figuratively, let's hope and pray that this fight does not get canceled, because as it stands right now, this undercard that's being built is early on a little bit underwhelming. I need to see more, but nevertheless, that's my rant on the UFC 303 ticket prices. The official ticket release date is Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can pick up the fight on June 29th exclusively on ESPN Plus pay-per-view, which, by the way, in communication with ESPN, as a loyal customer to ESPN Plus, they could not give me a clear answer as to the earliest that you could order this fight, and sure enough, we may never know until UFC 302 on June 1st is over. But nevertheless, that's going to wrap it up for the first official edition of BB. Thank you again for tuning in. This was definitely a fun experience. Just wanted to remind you all, my name is Zain Bando. I'm a sports journalist at several places. You can find my work at Sporting News, Sports News Highlights, MMA Knockout, and a couple of others. You can also find my work across social media at ZambandO99. You can follow this show, which has been pumping out content from episodes like crazy, thanks to me, at Bando's Breakdown across Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, wherever you get your social medias. Are all there and accessible to you. So be sure to drop me a follow there, and be sure to drop me a follow on a personal Instagram at Zambando99. That is also my Twitter handle, as well as you can see all the socials that are scrolling across the bottom ticker there. That's going to do it for this edition. I'm excited for next week. We're going to go deeper into the NBA and NHL postseason. We may have a guest on as well. It is in the works. We're going to go over and do kind of a deeper dive preview into the UFC 301 in Brazil with my own it's on it. So stay tuned for that as a supplement to it is going to be a new edition of the MMA Outsiders next week, and so much more. I'm excited to see what this show can become. Thank you again for listening. I hope you have a tremendous week, and I will see you guys soon.